50 years, Jack Elam played the meanest men in the West. Yet off camera, he was the opposite. He praised his co-stars. He admired the legends. He rarely had a hard word for anyone he stood beside. But peel back that calm, and one story does not fit. There was a single co-star Elam could not seem to forgive. A man whose name quietly changed how Elam saw the whole business. He hinted at it once, years ago. He never fully explained. And once you learn who it was, the reason will catch you off guard. The pencil William Scott Elam was born on the 13th of November 1920 in Miami, Arizona, a copper mining town in Gila County. His parents were Millard Elam and Alice Amelia Kirby. His mother died in 1922. William was only 2 years old. By 1930, life had already changed around him. He was living with his father, his older sister Mildred, and a stepmother named Flossie. Money was not waiting for him. Comfort was not waiting either. So he grew up doing the kind of work that leaves dust on the hands and heat on the neck. He picked cotton. Then came the accident that shaped the rest of his life. At a Boy Scout troop meeting in Phoenix, a scuffle broke out with another boy. In the middle of it, Jack Elam was stabbed in the left eye with a pencil. The injury blinded him in that eye forever. The eye stayed in place, but it no longer moved with the other one. It drifted loosely in the socket, and that small physical detail became impossible to ignore. In every publicity photo, in every close-up, and in every Western frame that caught his face, there was something uneven there, something strange, something that made people look twice. That wandering eye made Jack Elam one of the most recognizable faces in American film. A moment in a scout troop meeting decided the future of a man who would later become one of the most employed character actors in Hollywood history. The pencil did not simply injure him, it gave Hollywood the face it would keep hiring for 50 years. Casting directors did not pay for the face he was born with. They paid for the injury that life had left on him. That is worth sitting with for a moment, because Hollywood usually rewards the opposite thing. The movie business in the 1930s and 1940s was built around perfecting faces. Studios controlled the lighting. They softened the photos. They fixed teeth. They shaped stars until every angle looked clean and controlled. Jack Elam had something that could not be shaped by a studio. His face carried a permanent mark. It was visible. It was unusual. On camera, it read as danger. He had not chosen it. A boy with a pencil had chosen it for him in Phoenix. Years later, the American film industry turned that wound into his living. From there, Elam followed a path that did not look much like the beginning of a Western villain. He went to Miami High School in Gila County, then to Phoenix Union High School, where he graduated in the late 1930s. After that, he studied at Santa Monica Junior College in California. During the Second World War, he served 2 years in the United States Navy as a supply officer. After all that, the future screen outlaw made the least expected move. He became a chartered accountant, the auditor. This is the part of Jack Elam's story that almost nobody talks about. Yet it explains so much about the man. Before Hollywood knew him as a villain, Elam was a serious financial professional. He worked as a bookkeeper and auditor. His clients and employers included Samuel Goldwyn Studios and General Services Studios. Later, he became controller for William Boyd's Hopalong Cassidy production company. That detail matters. Years before Jack Elam ever became a familiar face in Westerns, he was already handling the money behind one of the biggest Western franchises in America. Decades later, in January 1987, a journalist named Ray Bennett sat down with him in Los Angeles. When Elam spoke about those accounting years, he sounded proud in a way he rarely sounded when talking about acting. He believed he had been as good an auditor as anyone in the business. He believed he had been highly paid because he knew exactly what he was doing. Then he explained why auditing gave him something acting never fully gave him. As an auditor, he felt self-respect. The work had proof built into it. A person could argue about a performance. One viewer could praise it. Another could hate it. A director could want more. A critic could want less. Every opinion could land differently. Auditing felt cleaner to him. When the books balanced, the answer was there. That was the kind of world Jack Elam understood. Numbers did not flatter him. Numbers did not reject him. Numbers gave him a place where being right could be proven. This explains a great deal about his screen presence. Watch him closely in almost any role, and he never seems desperate for approval. He does not beg the audience to like him. He does not push too hard. He looks steady, grounded, and strangely free. There is always a sense that acting was a job he could walk away from. After all, he had ledgers waiting in another life. Then, the life he respected most began to threaten him. Doctors warned him that staring at columns of numbers for hours each day could damage his one working eye. If he kept going, he risked losing sight in that eye, too. The best auditor in Hollywood was being pushed out of his profession by the same injury that had already changed his face. The face. Samuel Goldwyn noticed. There are two stories about how Jack Elam moved into acting, and both belong together. The first story is simple. Samuel Goldwyn, the famous movie mogul and one of Elam's own clients, looked at him and told him he had the perfect face to play a tough guy. The second story shows how Elam actually got hired. A movie director friend was struggling to raise money for 3 Western scripts. Elam knew the business side of Hollywood. He knew where money moved. He understood who could finance what. So he made a deal. He would help arrange the financing. In return, he wanted roles as a heavy in all 3 pictures. That was how Jack Elam entered Hollywood. He did not arrive through acting classes. He did not spend years doing stage work. He did not wait tables while hoping someone would discover him. He used the skill he already had, the skill the film industry depended on, and traded it for screen time. His acting career began as a negotiation. He was around 30 years old. One of those early films was The Sundowners in 1950, starring Robert Preston. Elam also helped arrange financing on that picture in exchange for a larger role, playing the husband of actress Kathy Downs. His actual screen debut had come the year before in a now-forgotten exploitation film called She Shoulda Said No. The story followed a chorus girl whose marijuana use destroys her career and drives her brother to suicide. Elam played a drug dealer. Then came Rawhide in 1951 with Tyrone Power and Susan Hayward. Years later, when Elam was asked to name his favorite film, he chose Rawhide. His reason had very little to do with art. He said it was the one that blasted his career open. Then he summed up the rest of his working life in one clean sentence: "I've never been out of work since." It does not take any imagination. Jack Elam had a strange way of talking about acting. He did not treat it like magic. He did not dress it up with mystery. In fact, he spoke about it with the bluntness of a man who had spent years checking figures and finding mistakes. Ray Bennett once suggested that a man who spent his life balancing columns of numbers might not have the imagination or creative freedom needed to act. Elam rejected the idea completely. In his view, acting took nerve. A person had to stand in front of a camera, speak the words, and remember the lines. That was the job. He saw no special creative mystery in it. To him, auditing could be just as creative. Bring him a set of books, he said, and he could look through them and often know where the shortage was hiding. A good auditor could save thousands of hours by knowing where to look first. In Elam's mind, that was creative work too. He was also honest about how he started. When he first stepped into acting, he knew almost nothing about the craft. He learned by doing it. Place that opinion beside the work he left behind, and the real story begins to open. Will Hutchins, who worked with him on Sugarfoot between 1959 and 1961, described Elam as an actor who never showed off. He did not force the audience to see the character. He let them discover the character slowly. Whether the role leaned toward danger or decency, Elam had a way of pulling viewers along without seeming to try. That was his gift. Other actors noticed something even more unusual. Elam could deliver entire pages of feeling without saying a word. His face carried the dialogue before his mouth opened. That is exactly what happens in the railway station scene in Spain. 9 minutes. Almost no lines. A fly. A lesser actor would have filled the silence with effort. Elam simply sat inside it. There was also a technical reason his stillness worked so well. A normal working eye tracks movement. It tells the viewer where a character is looking. From there, the viewer begins to understand what the character wants. Elam's left eye did not track, so when audiences watched him, they could never feel completely sure where his attention was. Was he looking at the other person? Was he looking past them? Was he looking at the audience? That uncertainty gave him a kind of menace that technique rarely creates on its own. Directors could place him in a frame, and the danger was already there. He built a 50-year career on the wound life had given him. Get me a young Jack Elam. Through the 1950s and 1960s, Jack Elam became one of the most reliable faces in the American Western. Television alone tells the story of how steady his work became. He appeared in more than 20 episodes of Gunsmoke on CBS. He also appeared in The Rifleman, Lawman, Bonanza, Cheyenne, Have Gun, Will Travel, Zorro, The Lone Ranger, The Rebel, Rawhide, and F Troop. By then, his face had become part of the genre's language. If a man walked into a saloon with Jack Elam's eyes, the audience already knew trouble had entered the room. In 1961, he appeared on The Twilight Zone in the episode Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? He played a slightly crazed man in a diner. And once again, that face did half the work before the plot even needed him. Then, in 1963, he received a rare chance to play the good guy. In the ABC and Warner Brothers series The Dakotas, Elam starred as Deputy U.S. Marshal J.D. Smith, a reformed gunfighter. The show lasted only 19 or 20 episodes, then disappeared. Yet it left a deep mark on the people who saw it. Decades later, viewers who had watched it as teenagers were still hunting for all 20 episodes on eBay. Some remembered seeing it once in 1963 and never forgetting it. Fans continued to argue that it may have been his finest role. The show was hard-edged, moody, and serious. For the people who connected with it, Jack Elam was more than a strange face from Westerns. He was the center of something that stayed with them for 40 years. By the end of his career, he had appeared in 73 films and at least 41 different television series. Somewhere in the middle of all that work, Elam gave one of the sharpest summaries ever made about the life of a character actor in Hollywood. First, nobody knows your name. Then, the industry wants you. After that, producers ask for someone with your look. Finally, they ask for a younger version. That was the whole career arc, and Elam understood it better than most. He had lived through every stage. He also found it funny, yet the joke carried the mind of an auditor. He was describing a career the way a financial man might describe an asset. At first, it has no value. Then, demand rises. After a while, cheaper substitutes appear. Eventually, someone newer takes its place. Most actors did not think about themselves that way. Jack Elam did, because before Hollywood paid him to frighten audiences, he had spent years doing that kind of arithmetic for other people's studios. The Fly and the turn Once Upon a Time in the West changed Jack Elam's career. Though the change came in a strange way, he spent about 10 days in southern Spain. During that short stay, he worked with Sergio Leone, Charles Bronson, Henry Fonda, Claudia Cardinale, Jason Robards, and Woody Strode. For many actors, that would have sounded like a sacred memory. For Elam, it was much simpler. 20 years later, when he looked back on Leone, he sounded almost amused by the whole thing. He said Leone had all the money and all the time in the world, so the film felt almost like a game to him. Elam also said he never knew if he had truly made contact with Leone because he had only worked on that one picture and had only been there for barely 10 days. Then his career turned. In 1969, Burt Kennedy cast him opposite James Garner in Support Your Local Sheriff. It was Elam's first real comic role, and it opened a door he had never expected. The role worked perfectly. Elam later said it was the second great turning point of his career. First came Rawhide, the film that made him a star. After that came Support Your Local Sheriff, the film that turned him into a comedian. 2 years later, he returned with Garner and Kennedy for Support Your Local Gunfighter. Between those two films in 1970, he played a cranky old coot opposite John Wayne in Howard Hawks' Rio Lobo. After that, the old villain roles began to fade, while the funny roles kept coming. He appeared in The Cockeyed Cowboys of Calico County, then in Sam Peckinpah's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid in 1973. Later came The Cannonball Run in 1980 and its sequel, where he played Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing. In 1979, he even played Frankenstein's monster in a sitcom called Struck by Lightning. The show was canceled after 3 episodes. Elam loved it anyway. In 1987, he said he would have been very happy to play that monster for the rest of his life. He used stronger words than that, because he really meant it. Through all these turns, Burt Kennedy became one of the most important directors in Elam's working life. Kennedy directed him 15 times across films and television. Their partnership lasted longer than almost any other partnership Elam had. So when someone asked Elam to name the best Western director he had ever worked with, he gave an answer that surprised people. He chose Burt Kennedy. He did not pick Howard Hawks. He did not pick Sergio Leone. He picked the friend who had changed his career. That answer also showed something deeper about Elam. The only subject in the interview that truly annoyed him was the way people forgot Kennedy's work. Somebody had asked Elam what Kennedy had actually done, and Elam thought the question had to be a joke. He pointed to Support Your Local Sheriff and said it had been one of the biggest grossing westerns of its year. It had also won the box office award. Elam placed Howard Hawks second, and he explained the choice honestly. Hawks was gone, while Kennedy was still a personal friend. He had made 2 pictures with Hawks and 9 with Kennedy. Still, he believed Kennedy belonged in the same class because both men worked in a similar way. That says a lot about Jack Elam. He could joke about himself. He could dismiss his own legend. Yet when a friend's work was ignored, he took it personally. They were never late. To understand what Jack Elam really thought of the people he worked with, this part matters most. When someone asked if old Hollywood believed it was creating art, Elam pushed the idea aside. To him, the work was more direct than that. People came to make a movie. They had a job, and they did it. Then he started naming the actors who shaped that world. Gary Cooper, Clark Gable, Robert Taylor, Duke Wayne. Every name came with respect. Elam said he never saw any of them arrive late. He never saw any of them come in without knowing their lines. They were prepared. They showed up on time. They expected to work, and they treated the set like a profession. That was the code he respected. Those men did not carry themselves as rare artistic souls. They saw themselves as actors who had been hired to fill a role. That idea stayed with Elam because it matched his own view of the business. For him, the job was the job. He said the directors worked that way too. Even when he reached for an example of a difficult director, he still ended with respect. He mentioned John Farrow, who directed him in Ride Vaquero in 1953. Elam called him a mean kind of man, then immediately added that Farrow was right on the nose. That may be the closest thing to a grudge in Elam's public record. Even there, the complaint ends with a professional compliment. That is important, because Elam was blunt about almost everything. He spoke plainly about acting. He had little patience for the mystery people tried to build around it. Yet across the interview, he did not tear down the actors beside him. There was no long feud hiding in the background. There was no old co-star he refused to forgive. His voice shows something far more grounded. He respected people who came ready, did the work, and left the scene better than they found it. What he blamed for killing the Western Elam did have one clear target, and it was probably not the one most people would expect. When someone asked if spaghetti westerns had ruined the Hollywood Western, Elam said they had not. In his view, the real damage came from a different place: blazing saddles. His reason was not snobbish. It was commercial. Mel Brooks's film became a huge hit, and Elam cited $100 million gross. The movie made fun of westerns, and Elam believed that once audiences laughed at the form that hard, it became much harder to return to it with a straight face. He had seen the effect from inside the business. According to Elam, Burt Kennedy had 2 or 3 good Western projects in development. Elam and Kennedy went to see Blazing Saddles together, and both walked away unhappy. After that, Kennedy's projects were canceled because they were not comedies. Elam then pointed to the record. He said anyone could look back and see what happened after that date. Westerns almost disappeared, except for the occasional film such as Pale Rider. The old pace of 8 or 10 westerns a year came to an end. His diagnosis can be debated, yet the numbers support the shape of what he saw. Blazing Saddles came out in 1974. Within a few years, the Hollywood Western, which had been a major part of American film for half a century, lost its place as a regular commercial format. Some historians might say Brooks's film helped cause the collapse. Others might say it arrived when the genre was already falling. Elam had no doubt, because he had watched a friend's projects vanish after it. He also blamed science fiction, and his reason was thoughtful. He said a new generation had grown up without cowboys. He had 2 children, and when he looked at what they watched, he did not see cowboy stories. He saw Star Wars. From his view, Westerns had also become too simple for modern audiences. The old black hat and white hat language did not carry the same power anymore. When the conversation moved to Rambo, Elam rejected the comparison. He said he could not connect that character to the Western at all. To him, Rambo offered something children could understand quickly, because there was no dreaming in it. Then Elam described what the Western meant to him, and it became one of the most tender things he ever said. He said there was a dream to the cowboy. The cowboy was a quiet soul. He told people to go back and really look at Gary Cooper, Bob Taylor, and Kirk Douglas. Those men did not push themselves to the front. They carried the story with stillness. Then Elam admitted his own bias. He loved that older world. That is the beautiful contradiction in him. The man who said acting required little imagination became deeply sentimental when he talked about the meaning of a Western. He may have treated the work like a trade, yet somewhere inside him, the cowboy story still had a soul. He lied about his age. Elam kept working into old age, and he did not become precious about any of it. He took the roles that came his way and kept moving. At the same time, he carried one small lie that followed him even after death. He appeared in several television films adapted from Louis L'Amour novels. He joined the 1990s Bonanza revivals, including Bonanza, Under Attack in 1995, where he appeared alongside Ben Johnson, Dennis Farina, Richard Roundtree, and Leonard Nimoy. He also played an aging hillbilly named Bully in the sitcom Easy Street, which ran in 1986 and 1987. In that show, his character was brought to Beverly Hills by a suddenly rich relative played by Lonnie Anderson. Then, in 1991, he appeared in Suburban Commando. He was honest about Easy Street as well. He liked the character. He liked the company. The live camera process bothered him, and he said so plainly. That was Elam all the way through. He kept watching the work. He kept checking where the problem was. The auditor in him never fully disappeared. In 1994, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. That honor is reserved for people the Western could hardly exist without, and Elam's name joined a very short list. By then, his age depended on which birth year a person believed. Some said he was 75, others said 73. His final credited work came in 1995. His screen career had begun back in 1944, which meant he had spent more than 50 years in the business. Jack Elam died on October 20, 2003, at his home in Ashland, Oregon. The cause was congestive heart failure. He left behind 2 daughters and a son. He had been married twice. His first wife, Jean Hodgert, died in 1961. That same year, he married Margaret Jennison. Then came one final detail, and it fits him perfectly. Most biographies listed him as 86 when he died. His longtime friend Al Hassan said he was actually 84. Elam had lied about his age as a young man to get work. Somehow, that lie stayed alive in reference books around the world. Hassan gave the best summary of him. He said Elam was cantankerous in a great way. In a funny way, he smoked. He drank. He lived hard. The picture that remains is not of a bitter man. It is not of someone carrying an old wound from a movie set. It is a picture of a sharp, funny, stubborn man who had lived fully and made peace with the shape of his own life. Hassan said it best. He lived one of the best lives I've ever seen. So, did Jack Elam refuse to forgive a Western co-star? The record points in the other direction. More importantly, it points there in Elam's own voice. Here was a man who lost his mother when he was 2. As a boy, he was blinded in a scout hall. As an adult, he became one of the highest-paid auditors in Hollywood, then learned the work might cost him the rest of his sight. After that, he bought his way into the film business by doing something few people on set could do. He arranged the money. From there, he spent 50 years becoming one of the most frightening faces in the American West. All the while, he kept insisting that acting was a trade. He said it over and over to anyone who asked. The audience knew better. Anyone who watched him knew there was something rare in that face, that voice, that strange, crooked stare. Elam kept rejecting the praise anyway, which feels completely in character. He was not the kind of man who could be flattered into changing his mind. Then, near the center of the legend, there is that image in the Spanish desert. Jack Elam sat in a chair for a day and a half, with watermelons smeared in his beard, waiting for a fly. He did it so a director he barely knew could open one of the greatest westerns ever made, with the face of a man Hollywood had rarely thought to place at the center. Who's Jack Elam? That was the joke he told about himself. The answer is simple. He was the man who could measure his own career with perfect honesty, because long before he became a face on the screen, he was the one doing the books.